I want to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to thank our sponsors, which is Epson Archive Magazine, Pro Photo Daily, American Photography, and Photo Shelter. I ask everyone who hasn't, if you can subscribe to our YouTube page at Projections NYC. That'd be great. And tonight we have two presenters, Francois Brunelle, and who's out of Montreal, the place where the 1976 Olympics were. And we also have a dear friend, Teresa Meier, who will lead us off. So share your screen and off we go.
Okay. So I'm going to be sharing some work that I did during an artist residency in Scotland last September. Oops. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I'll share I'll show you the full piece at the end. So you'll get a little preview of it here. So it's all one piece. It's about 25 feet. And it is around 17 inches high, 15 or 17 inches high. And I'm just going to take you through kind of my experience during the residency and how I captured the image, and just the process of going through and collecting.
Tell us how you got the residency. How did it all come about?
Yeah, so it was with the Collage Institute, and they had a couple different programs. There was one that was photography and one that was collage. And since I do photo illustration, I kind of spanned both residencies and worked with both the photographers and also the collage artists. And we were all invited there to work from a book of the folklore, folktale, and mythology of Sanquhar, Scotland. So it's the very southernmost point of Scotland. Teeny tiny town. You could walk the length of it in 20 minutes. And we were working from a very specific text from the 1500s. And it was just this collection of fairy tales, folklore, mythology that the guy went around, collected, and put into a book. So we were given the book and said, hey, make something. So invited to stay in the town. Got to meet the people that live there and just explore, go to all the museums. And we each were together, but we were all creating our own independent piece. So it was interesting to be able to start off the residency with other photographers, some of which were, conceptual photographers, fine art photographers, and also photojournalists. So just kind of seeing how everyone interpreted the text and worked, with their own process was fun. And then going into working with collage artists, most of whom were not accustomed to making their own source material. So they were just very much, they find things and then they collage it together into something new. So that was fun to kind of talk with them about well, why don't you make your own source material? We're here, you all have cameras, you all have a phone, you could. And it was just such a different way of working that all of them were well, I've never done that before. That's not how it works. So it was interesting to have that sort of kind of back and forth of the photography and then the collage and how it is kind of two separate worlds. I mean, I got introduced to so many things that I'd never, artists and that I didn't really think about. So I was there for about 3 weeks. This is a link to the printing of the image. I worked with a printer in Virginia to get it printed. I've never done a 25-foot piece. You need specific software. So he filmed it. If anyone's interested in seeing that, I can put the link in the chat. So this is it got shipped to a museum in Knoxville. It's currently there now. We printed it on canvas, and this is about 4.5 feet of it showing. I made the scrolls by hand. I decided I wanted the final presentation to really represent this historical that historical element of why the piece was made, how it was made, what it's about, and I really wanted to push that through in the presentation. So I made these scrolls by hand, close-ups of the canvas, the scroll pieces, painted them. And then, so this is the imagery I was collecting while I was there. So when I'm shooting, I have older equipment, and to get the resolution that I want, I end up stitching a lot of imagery together in Photoshop. So when I'm shooting, I'm thinking about that constantly, where I'm standing and how I'm going to, get a huge span of road and then get it stitched together and put into a collage. So, I was super lucky, got to be there for a while and just like really explore the town, get to, a sense of the light. I went to this toll booth several times at, various times a day, just to see how the light hit it, and how it changed and, how I wanted it to composite together with everything else. So essentially I was going around and collecting different aspects of this town and then creating this fictional town ultimately in the end to tell the stories that I was reading about and to, kind of discuss the mythology of the area. And I was drawn to, and then, this is a monument here. So just different things in the town that are sticking out to me, the animals, the flowers.
So what format are you using?
Like what kind of camera? Whoops.
Yeah.
A Nikon. I think it's a D. I'm not even sure. It's old. An old Nikon D700 maybe. It might be an 8.
Okay.
I don't
But
know.
35 millimeter?
It is full frame. Yes, 35 millimeter. Yeah, and I typically shoot with. I will switch the lenses. Um, and so some of the distortion you'll see is, different focal lengths. I'll typically stick with either an 85 or, the nifty 50. And then, yeah, composite things together. So just explorations, like I said, I'm really just like going around collecting, getting a feel for the place, just really, just exploring it and getting a sense of, how I want to put this collage together and how I want it to feel. So
Yeah.
it's,
And Teresa, that piece of it, like, so now you're shooting pieces, right? Do you already have in your head it's going to be in these windows and that, like, when does that start to come together for you?
so, as like when I'm reading through the stories, so there's definitely certain ones that I start gravitating to, and there were certain ones that I found a theme, a common thread through a few that, wasn't necessarily intentional. It was just something that I pulled out. Um, there were certain stories that really stuck with me, and a lot of them. I mean, the times, it was in the 1500s, and they called this time period the killing times. So this is a pretty violent text. Like there's, as much as like whimsy and like fairy tales, fairies and like flying cats and stuff. There's also just like murder and mayhem. And so there was, and some of them, it's like, this woman's hungry and she gets accused of petty theft. Like she probably stole food or something. And so they decide to like jail her, but then not only are they to jail her, they like put a rope around her neck and drag her through the town and have like a drum behind her. And it's this whole like public shaming. So it's just like these like very archaic, torturous methods of just like killing, beheading, it's filled with this. So there was a few that I pulled out that I was really intrigued by. We can kind of go into it more when we get back to the piece. So I'm thinking about the stories and how I want the narrative to play out. And then as I'm going through the town and I'm, seeing the landscape, I'm just kind of figuring out which ones work as my sets to tell these stories. And then how can I weave it together with something else to get a nice narrative flow through the whole image that then shows like story after story. So it was, yeah, again, just like this amazing experience. And I will show you we can zoom in on the image here. Maybe. Can you see it?
We see your entire screen.
Okay. Oops. Okay. There we go. So I'm from Oregon. I grew up in Oregon.
Oh, wait. Teresa, we still see the screen.
Oh, okay. See, it is paused. Okay, so I think I have to stop and start again. Okay. Can we see that?
Now
Perfect.
Okay. So I grew up in Oregon. You know, we were founded in like what 1859, I think. So reading these texts from 1500s, and then being able to actually go visit like the sites that are in the text just kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, like this stuff's still here. I can actually just go to it. I can go find it. So the Black Lock was one where one of the stories was, and there was a monument up there, and it was actually it was a cairn. It's just a pile of rocks, and so it took me a few days to find it, but I found it, and it was a story about this piper who was. How do I scroll? There we go. Okay. He was the piper in the town. Everyone liked him, right? He's an entertainer, and he's going home after playing one night. He's a little drunk, and he's going home across the moors. And there was a lot of persecution of Catholics at the time, and so there was what they called the Covenanters, who were rebelling against the. They were persecuting. It was like there was one religion only. If anyone's deviating from that, you're dying. And so the Covenanters were like the big rebellion against. They wanted their freedom against the crown, I believe. So the bagpiper like stumbled and fell in the moors because it's crazy. It's like ankle breakers for days out there. And they shot him because they thought he was a Covenanter and he was like hiding from the soldiers. And then, they went over and they saw it was the piper and they were like, oh, bummed out. They're like, oh, dang it, we shot the piper. They were like all sad. And so they built this whole memorial for the piper. I don't know, something about that just was like.
And how long is this taking you to put all this together now?
So, after I got back, I'm just doing it in my spare time. So it took me a few months, but, hours wise, probably somewhere between 50 and 100. Just getting through everything. Yeah, probably somewhere around there, maybe a little less. Witches, women were witches. They all had to die. So this was this whole story of a hunter who was shooting a rabbit, and there was this whole thing that witches turn into hares. And he shot a hare, and then when we went to get it, he actually shot a woman. So there's a lot of stories like that. So it's just all these stories of persecuting something other than you that like like I don't agree with that, so I'm just gonna kill him, right? A lot of it's state sanctioned, so I sort of like, okay, like how do we decide, like how do we justify violence against others? Mary Queen of Scots fled. She took refuge in Sanquhar, and she fled down the Queen's Road. She was beheaded.
Teresa, would somebody who lives there and knows the story, they'd be able to see everything that you're talking about? They would get it. That's the goal, right?
Right. Yes. This was the castle in the town. It went to the castle. Kind of had an interesting story that I wanted to play out a little more, but it didn't have quite enough imagery. They like went bankrupt because they partied too much. And that really got me too. So I visited other castles while I was there and got these interior shots. And I also would have liked to really play up some narratives in these windows, but I would have needed just a little more time.
And the finished piece is 4 feet wide,
25.
25 feet wide. Okay.
25 feet wide. Yeah.
The other piece. Wow.
There's stories about bringing circus animals through town. This is the woman who got dragged through the streets.
So storytelling like this, what inspires you?
Oh gosh. I mean, so I love storytelling, right? I mean, it's how we make sense of the world. I've been a reader my whole life, and like I said, I mean, I think just growing up in the West has been such kind of an odd experience because of our lack of history. Okay, let's zoom back out. So I don't know. I've just always been super fascinated with why we tell stories, how we tell them, what it means for us, and how we use it to make our way, right? I mean, we are storytelling machines. Like that's what we do all day long. I mean, something happens, you immediately start to generate a story about it, whether you're cognizant of it or not. I mean, you are.
Even in our imagination, we're creating that.
Yeah, because that's how we process things. That's how we work through things. That's how we work through problems. So for when you're looking at the history of people, I mean, I think it's invaluable, right? I mean, to look back and sort of, I mean, even personally in your own life, right? I mean, to move forward, you kind of have to look back, right? And like, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And then you tell yourself a story about that.
Right. So even not seeing it, you didn't see it, but you created the visual from what your imagination said.
Right. And I kind of had a hard time with that. So that was part of the reason I really wanted to go on this residency. So I have created work like of my own personal story, autobiographical, and I've really looked at how places influenced my identity. And so I'm very intrigued by that, how we use storytelling and how place informs who we become. And so when they were doing this, I was like, oh gosh, I feel like that's the next step for me, like moving beyond myself and then looking at the history of other places. But it was a little uncomfortable. I was like, is this really my story to tell? And eventually they were like, well, we did invite you here to tell these stories. So yes.
Well, I mean, so then you become the storyteller of this other story,
Right.
right? It's your vision. You're the director.
Right.
You get to put your signature, your stamp on it, right?
Right. Yeah. It was fun. I mean, I want to continue it. I want to go, I've just got like visions of like, moving left or right of the scroll, going east or west, back in time, forward in time, going across, ghost ships going across the Atlantic. I mean, the US just going from the East Coast to the West Coast is going to be.
Yeah, that's. So when do you go back? Like, how does this work for you? Is it over now for a while, or is it just on hold and I will get back to this?
So they did put together a book of the residents' work. There was a few residencies, and then they had an exhibition in Knoxville Museum of Art, and that's about to end. But as far as like me creating more work, it's just a matter of back to that day job.
Back to finance. It's always about finance.
So I have more time.
Well, that's why they have the GoFundMe pages.
Yeah. No, and I did get a grant. A local arts organization here gave me a grant to go do this. So again, like just so lucky. And also Collage Institute gave me a scholarship as well.
And if anyone else has any questions, now you can put them in the chat room or raise your hands or anything. That's fine. So do you find this as gratifying as your last project that you presented, which was more about you?
Yeah, it was really nice to kind of it definitely felt like the next step. It was awesome to kind of actually kind of get beyond that,
Mhm.
and explore. Just it just kind of widens things up, right? I mean, like I said, I love history and I love stories, so this was just like, yeah, super fun with, without all the personal trauma. I can look at other people's trauma.
And laugh at it, right?
Yeah.
Other people's pain is always easy to digest. Great. Well, thank you very much for that. I love that, and you know, you always have a standing invitation to come back and show us more work and new work and on and on and on. And this is actually pretty interesting to see how far you take that. So, like, I guess that's the question. Like, when does it end for you, a particular project? Because there is always so many pieces and stitching and on and on and on. Like, when do you say, like, how does that happen for you? I'm done.
It's a good question. So I mean, some projects I feel like are still open for me, where it's like I feel like it might be more like chapters instead of
Mm.
like beginning end, where it's just like, okay, this part of this might be done, but maybe now, like new chapter of life. Um, so with this one, I mean, I feel like, I could do a lot of these
Yeah.
for a while.
Right.
And some pieces, I did a series during COVID and, just did it during lockdown. And I think I made 10 pieces and was like, all right, that project's done.
That's that, a little bit of that is therapeutic, right? To keep
Right.
yourself going during COVID, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of people fell into that category. In fact, my wife was doing a talk this morning about the Hopper show
Okay.
at the Whitney, and now people are looking at those images with a set of COVID glasses on.
Right.
That loneliness, that quietness. So many people live that.
Yeah.
Um,
Alienation.
Yeah, but that may be something, at another time you can come back and show us the COVID work
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and see how that fits in. But again, thank you very, very much. And like I said, you're always invited back,
Thank
to
you.
us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I love being here.
And another thing, even with the book that came out, or is it produced now? The book?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we can even do a night with two or three of the other artists, you know,
Yeah.
discussing how that all got together. So that's something maybe we talk offline on.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll take a minute break as we get Francois to get set up and get him to share the screen. Teresa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's get Francois there. If anyone wants to take a break or so you've stopped sharing, right, Teresa?
I think so. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So Francois, you can now
Yeah, I'm just doing that.
okay.
So
Everyone should know that Sandy is now in the house. So the world is spinning in the right direction. Okay. All right. Francois.
so I'll just see if it works.
Jay.
Do you see my screen or not?
Yes, we do. But we see your entire screen.
Yeah, just hold on. I'll try this maybe.
Okay. So Francois, before
Perfect.
you're great. Before we start, Francois, what was the impetus? What was the idea to get this project started?
Well, yes, thanks for inviting me first, and nice to meet you, all of you people, and thanks Teresa for your nice presentation and nice pictures. It's very impressed. It's really something very original and very enlightening. It's very cool. I feel my stuff is so ordinary compared to yours, but anyways, here it goes. Well, my project is about lookalikes. And what is a lookalike? A lookalike is someone that looks like somebody else, but is not the same. But it may look the same, may sound the same, it's the way of being. So sometimes you meet someone in the street or in a party, and you say hello, John, or hello, Cindy, and then after 5 minutes, the person says, "Well, I'm not John, or I'm not Cindy," and then you say, "Oh, sorry, I was mistaken," and then you go your way. And so these people, they kind of look the same. And in my case, I was told for quite a while that I looked like a certain Mr. Bean, the English character played by Rowan Atkinson. And I didn't know. I didn't watch television at the time, and I still don't watch it. So I didn't know. I thought maybe it was somebody was a face like a bean or something like that. So I thought, yeah, maybe I look like a bean. I don't know. But one day I saw somebody on the television that looked like me, and at the end of the program, I saw the letters Mr. Bean, and I just thought, oh no, I think I look like Mr. Bean, and people think I look like Mr. Bean, so I must look like Mr. Bean, not James Dean like I thought before, Mr. Dean. So it was a moment in my life where I just realized that I look like something definite and not a dream, and that gave me the idea after a little while to find lookalikes and bring them together. And I thought that when they would meet, they would be in a state of shock. They would be, transfigured somehow, and I would take their pictures. And by doing that, I would get a super good picture. That was just a fantasy. So I started a project, but in real life, people meet, and if they meet for the first time, they have maybe 3 seconds of of surprise, and that's it. So I just had to do my work, and by doing the pictures is find the likeness in the model. So I don't know if you see, do you see well the pictures, or maybe
Yes, it's perfect. But
maybe on
Francois,
the side.
just before you start showing the images, logistically, how did you do this? How did you have the one photograph, and then, did somebody else come? Like, what did you set up that people could come here and look and say, oh, I look like her, I look like him? How did you do that?
Yeah, well, at first, over the years, I noticed some lookalikes that I met, like friends or nephews or things like that, that would look like somebody else, and I would just take note of that in my mind. When I started the project, I called these people, where there were about 15 couples, maybe in all, and out of them, maybe 8 or 9 would be available and would agree to participate, and would be reachable too. Some people had moved far away, and they agreed to participate in my project, and I was very happy to have 8 or 9. But then I wanted 200, so where do you go from there? So I thought of putting ads in newspapers, and I put some little ad in some little community newspaper, and it costs a lot of money to have ads, and nobody reads these ads anyways for a lookalike. I mean, who would read an ad? So I'm looking for a lookalike, please call this phone number. So I just decided to go to the media. I went to the media and I asked the media to help me. So it didn't work out as quick as I thought. It took years before some media noticed my project, and because nobody understood my project at the beginning, they just thought I was a weirdo and doing this stuff. And also, my project is not about lookalikes of celebrities, which is a very popular topic all around the world, like programs in the newspapers. You have the celebrity lookalikes, but I'm not looking at celebrities at all, because my fascination with the lookalikes is, why do two people look the same, more or less? And what if I myself, I look like somebody else? Like in my case, I look like the character Mr. Bean. But then I found somebody here in Montreal that looked like me a lot. So if I look like someone else, is that someone else just like me? Or what am I? Am I what I'm looking in the mirror? Or am I something else? So that's the question I'm asking with my project, but I don't have any answer. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not clever enough to give you an answer. So let me go through the photos. I'll just try if it works. Okay, I have to Do you see you see
Francois, try the cursor keys, the left and right keys in your keyboard.
yeah, do you see this thing moving or you don't see that?
All we see is the photograph. We see the cursor. Yes.
Okay, no, but you don't see there's a bar on top. Okay, that's
No,
fine.
we don't see that.
No.
Okay, because I'm trying to change the image, but it doesn't work. So I'll just remove the full screen. Sorry, like this, and then okay. So these are our lookalikes. I'll just go. I'm sorry about the screen behind. I just remove this so you're not. Whoops. Sorry about that. Okay, I just put them on a key so that it's easier, but I guess it doesn't work as I expected. Okay, so
Francois, you can try to use the cursor keys. It might move you from image to image.
yeah, it works already. Okay, it works now for some reason. But do you see the full image or you see
Yes,
the
we do. We have the full.
okay, because I see the image and I see a lot of stuff in front, so you don't see that. That's good. So these are a few pictures that I made over the years. So it's basically it's very simple. It's black and white, and it's two people that seemingly are look alike and they look the same, and they come to my studio, or I go to if I travel in another country, I try to have a studio, or I go. What I normally do, I rent an hotel room, the cheapest that I can get and the biggest that I can get. I was in New York City once, and I rented a room in Chinatown. It had 3 beds, 2 double beds and 1 single bed. It was the most smallest room that I ever saw in my life. So you never know. So I go, I find these places, and for me, it doesn't matter. The background is always either white or gray, or sometimes there's furniture in the back, but I remove that. So that's the thing. That's yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Is there ever a time where a set of people come to you and say, "We heard about this and we know we look alike," and they've come to you, or is always you matching?
No, okay. So that's so I went to the media. So sorry, yes, I got lost somewhere. When the media started to talk about my project, then I got these emails because I would tell the media, ask your readership to contact me if they have a lookalike. In reality, a lot of people still write to me and say, please find my lookalike, but I don't do that. But mostly I get emails saying, oh, my husband works in the factory, and there's the mailman looks like him, and my children too. Oh, so and then they send me pictures, and then if it's and then I try to manage to photograph them. But of course, I cannot photograph everyone that reached out to me because I'm not able to travel all around the world like I would like to do. But sometimes I do some traveling around the United States or Canada and Europe, and then I try to combine a lot of lookalikes at the same time. And I was also invited by some entities like some government agency in Colombia. They wanted to do a project with my photos, so they had me come to Bogota. They rented a studio. They found the lookalikes all around the Colombia. They brought them to Bogota, and then I could photograph 24 pairs of lookalikes, but I just had to show up and photograph them. So that was easy pie for me because they had heard about my project before. So basically, that's people reach out to me and say, we have a lookalike, or I have a lookalike. And then I managed to do their pictures at some point. So right now I have 250 pairs of lookalikes in my collection. So it's I'm trying to put out a book right now, and it's very complicated to make a story out of these portraits because they're the same. It's 2 people on a white background or pale background, and nothing much is happening. No much makeup, no ventilator, no gimmicks. It's very simple, but that's the way I like my pictures. So if right in the beginning of my photos, I told myself, this is what I like. If somebody else in the world, only one person in the world would like my pictures as much as I do, I would be satisfied. But I'm a lucky person, I guess. It seems that a few people other than me like my pictures, and we can see them all over the web and in the media and things like that. So these two women are.
Let me just answer, Francois. One
Sorry.
question. These folks, a lot of them are holding each other, embracing them. So, is that just, I mean, did they just come together, or a lot of them knew each other that they felt comfortable holding and hugging, because there's the camaraderie that is, in a moment? Or is that something you directed?
Yeah, good question, Frank. Thanks for asking. It's well, I would say half of the people meet for the first time, and half of the people knew each other. So, like these two women, I think they knew each other. But it doesn't matter for me. If they meet for the first time, they have to touch, because I say, just get close together, and I find a way to make them feel comfortable after a few minutes. And I tell them that I need the heads to be close to get in the pictures and things like that. And women are more easy to get to touch the other woman, the other person. Men are more reluctant to do that. They are like. But I just convince them. What I tell them most of the time, I say, okay, this is we're distant cousins. We meet for the first time, and the party is over. Now, before you leave, let's take a picture. So let's get together. And then they do this embrace. And then I can get my pictures, even though they meet for the first time and they don't want to touch the other person. So that's my work as a photographer to do that. And I don't have much talent, but I have at least this talent to get these people together and to behave in a certain way. I'm trying to find the right angle. These shots were shot in Germany. So this was in Spain. So these two guys, they're not the same, but the hair, the way they're dressed, that's their own clothing, and they just came like that, and I guess they met at the university or something like that, and they were told that they looked the same, and then they saw my project and they wrote to me. Then I was in Spain, and I think it was in Valencia. This is Barcelona.
Yeah, so this is a very big logistic project as well, right? I mean, knowing that you're going to be in Spain or Scandinavia or wherever you're going to go, if you don't have all your history there, or this Excel sheet of who's who and who's where, you would be lost, right? I mean,
it's not easy. It's not easy. It takes a lot of concentration, and I must say that it's a full-time job. When you do that, you don't do it. You don't do anything else, because it's you have to convince the people to participate in your project. They have to come to you, and I'm not paying them anything. They participate. And why is that? Because when I started the project, I thought maybe I would give them $50, maybe, just to acknowledge the fact that they participate. But if I pay the models to be in the project, I'm paying them. I'm hiring them, so I can ask them to do whatever, do this, do that, because I pay them. But if they participate out of their own will, then we have to be friends. If I ask them to turn their heads left, they have to agree on that. They just can say, no, sir, I'm not paid for that. So, excuse my French, go yourself. So and for me, it was a change of life, because I thought when I started the project that I would just meet these people. They would come in front of my camera, and then I would just photograph them. They would go away. But it's not that. I have 500 new friends by doing that. And some of them I keep in contact, like these two men that are from Madrid. Each time I go to Spain, we go and have lunch together. It's a funny couple. They're members of a club in Madrid, and to be part of this club is called the Bears Club. Something. You have to be gay, you have to be bald, you have to be big, you have to be hairy, and you have to have a beard. I think all these things, and then you can be part of the club. So it's quite funny, and they look cool. I don't know. It's funny.
Do you tell people what to wear? Like a case like this, did you tell both women to come with this type of a blouse or this type of a top?
Yeah, it's a good question too. Normally, I ask
That was from
bring some clothing like dark clothing, gray clothing, and pale clothing without any logos, if you can, and then we'll play with that. And sometimes they, like these two women, they knew each other, so they managed to bring clothing that looked the same, and then we did with some other clothing, but this was the one of the good shots. So and sometimes when it's I did a project like in Colombia. They made a movie out of it, and they would dress them without my knowledge, and they would come to my camera. And then I would tell these people, I'm a very naive person. I would tell, it's funny, they all dress in black. It's funny if say, well, we put those T-shirts on them, and I was wondering, they all have the same. So, but I did also pictures with other clothing, but. Lots of my pictures in Colombia, they all dress the same, and that's a pity. But I was too stupid to realize that they was doing. This is another couple, a man and woman from Germany, and they look like brother and sisters, but they're not related at all. They're a couple, in fact. So that's in Colombia, two women from Colombia. So it's some people will say, this pair is not good. Some other people will say this pair is good. It doesn't matter. It's a lookalike is a lookalike. To what extent, it's you, the viewer, to decide. So my only work is to try to find the right angle, the right expression. It's not easy. Each time I do a picture, I think I failed. For 250 times, I thought I had failed miserably, and then after a few months, a few weeks, I say, maybe this one, and yeah, maybe I'm not so bad. And finally, this is in Cuba. It's not all the, I don't know why all the couples are here. Okay, this is a funny picture too. This is Montreal. So I don't want to bore you with my pictures. This is Montreal.
No, it's fine. The stories behind them are really intriguing. Like I say, seeing all these people being comfortable enough to hold each other, embracing, is really wonderful. The human side of this is what do you plan on continuing this, Francois?
Well, yes, yes. Well, there's a lady here in Montreal. She wants to make a movie out of my project and about myself. I'm not sure. And I think in the fall or next year, she will do a big thing on my project for about 2 years, I think. And we have some lookalikes in reserve that I'm not touching right now, but we'll photograph them. And by the way, I have a couple, and I hope we'll make it. It's a Israeli woman and a Palestinian woman. They live near Toronto, and I'm supposed to photograph them together. So if I can get this picture, if I can get it, because it's planned, but if I get this picture, that will be one of my success in the work, to have this in my project. And they look the same.
Yeah, I have to say, Jamie hit it about 10 minutes ago. He said this is the best form of diplomacy. If you can get, there's Jim will remember this guy's name, who shot for Bennington. He did all those great fashion ads with people, connecting like this, but different. But in Jamie's word, the diplomacy piece.
I remember this. Yeah, I was a fan of this.
I forget his name now.
Yeah. He came to Montreal to give the conference. He was
Scotty. There it is. Very good. Yeah. That's a great body of work, also.
Yeah. It's so I guess that was an inspiration for me at some point, because he would bring these people together, and very different backgrounds, and a black and a white. A Jew and an Arab, and he would mix everything, a young, and then it mixed everything. Yeah. And he was a great artist.
What I was going to say before is getting some audio of these folks would be good. you're just just interviewing them and what they're thinking would be a nice piece for your movie.
Yeah, that's the, I guess the Stacy, the girl who wants, the woman who wants to do, she wants to do that. She wants it, and she did other movies up to now, and it's very good. She will do the right thing, because I had an article in the New York Times in the last August, and then I was reached by four different people reached out to me to make a movie. But the woman in Montreal reached out to me before that, so you were the first. You keep it, but she's the most sensitive person. The other one, what the New York Times wanted to do somebody else for Netflix and things like that, but I think it would have been too much of spectacular. My project is nothing spectacular. It's just one more project, out of many projects. So so there's a guy here from Montreal, and the other guy is from Salvador. So it's funny to see the mix of cultures.
Yeah, that's.
So there may be a repetition. I just because I didn't know that I had to do a presentation for your stuff, so I did just that while Teresa was talking. I'm sorry, but
this one, if you can go full screen, that would be great. But this is fine.
Well, I'll try again, but when I go,
then let it be, Francois. It's fine. It's fine. It's like that. I mean, like these women. Yeah.
Sorry,
No, like those women. How long did they know each other to feel comfortable to be embracing that? So, it's a credit to you to letting people be comfortable in your setting, in your studio.
Yeah, I think I'm good at that. To be frank, because most of the photo session takes about between an hour and an hour and a half, because it's 2 hours including the talking before and this and that. So I'm not good at many things, but I'm good at that. I must say, I know how to do that, but I can't tell you why. It's a natural for me. That's why I'm doing this project, because but it's tough, because sometimes people show up in your studio and you think they don't look the same at all, and then you just go crazy, and then you have to find a way, because they supposedly they were confused by other people, so they must be lookalikes. And sometimes two people come in my studio and say, "Oh, this is easy pie. They look so much the same. It's incredible." And after 15 minutes, I look at them and I say, "Oh, they don't look the same at all." It's lots of suffering doing this project.
And so none of them are related, right?
None of them are related, and I had some doubts at some point, but there was a study made in Spain, and he had the DNA of a lot of them, and he said there was nothing in common between these people.
Yeah, wait, Francois, go back to those three. You have the three shots. One more.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No.
You have three shots of these women. Here's where they look most alike. To your point, where sometimes they don't, but here the other previous shots they don't look so much alike. But
yeah, that's not my final choice. So it's in the making, and because there was some program. I think a German TV company came to Montreal, and they want me to find lookalikes. So I say, okay, new lookalikes, and then I send them many photos for them to edit. But yeah, that's the best one here. And by the way, this is not this one. This is the very first photo that I did for my project in year 2000. The very first official. I did another one before that. That wasn't good because I didn't know what I was doing. But this is the first. And I met the guy on the right in the party, and I was thinking it was the guy on the left, and I was talking for him for about 10 minutes. And this guy on the right, he said, "Do we know each other?" And I say, "Well," they said, that's weird, because my friend has no sense of humor, and I thought it was a very good joke. Do we know each other? So I said, your name is Jean, right? He says, "No, my name is Jacques." So, and then I told him, oh my God, you're the perfect lookalike. Would you participate in my project? So he said yes. So they were the first people to come to my studio. And when they came, I thought, oh, they don't look the same at all. So they asked me, do you think we're okay? I said, yeah, yes, you're fine. I'm a good liar when it's time to do a photo. And so I did their photo, and then they left. And I wanted to kill myself. I say, Francois, you're a total failure. You're just bad. And it took me about 6 months to find this picture out of the lot, and to think maybe it's not so bad. And now I think it's one of my best. And if you look at the picture carefully, these people, they came with their own clothing, and look at their funny shirts. You know, nobody wears shirts like that anymore. But both of these guys came with these stupid shirts with the not stupid shirts, but funny shirts. Like nobody wears that anymore. But it was just dressed the same. And one of the my friend on the left, I think, is maybe 10 or 15 years older than the other one, who lives in Quebec City. The other one lives in Montreal, and they were, their hair was not the same length, the beard and everything. But somehow I thought that one was the other, so they must look the same somehow. So this will be probably the cover of the book I'm working on since a few weeks now, and but I thought it was so bad at the beginning. So that's another story. That's a friend of mine on the left, and after the picture, he told me, Francois, it's too bad, but we don't look the same at all. I say, well, thank you. It's you have all these stories, and the title of my project is I'm Not a Lookalike, because a lot of people think I don't look like the other person. And so by giving the title I'm Not a Lookalike, I'm telling I'm giving the in French we see la parole, the word to the people who are in the photo. It's not me saying the lookalikes, like I'm looking down on the lookalikes and I'm showing my collection of lookalikes. It's not that, it's the lookalikes talking. And what do they say? They say, I'm not a lookalike. I think it's great. Two guys in Paris, and look at this picture carefully. And these are two typically Parisian boys. And for the ones who are not familiar with French people, I'm French Canadian, by the way. I'm not French. I'm Canadian. I'm not American. So these Frenchmen, I told them to touch, like you asked Frank, and then the one on the left, who knows everything, but he put his hand, but he wouldn't dare putting his fingers down. So I took a few shots like that, and I told him, did you notice your fingers are up? And then he went down. Oh, no, it's not like that. So because he was, reluctant to touch the other guy. So for me, that's a good picture, because it tells a story of because the face looked like, yeah, I'm okay with everything, but his hand reveals that he's afraid to touch the other guy. He's not used to that, and in front of a camera. So these kind of details for me are delicious. It's it's funny.
Is the harder part, or what is the hardest part, to convince people to do it, to get the right shot? Like, who are you? What are you doing? One of those things. I mean, what was the biggest challenge for you, as a common thread through the project?
Well, the biggest challenge is to do the picture every time. It's the biggest challenge, really. The other day, I had to do a photo for. I still work as a photographer from time to time, but I'm mostly retired now. And somebody came to my studio and said, "Oh my God, you look like one of my friends who lives in London, in Manchester, in England." But it happened so that this friend was coming to Montreal a week later, so I managed to get them together in my studio. But they didn't look very much the same. But I'm not clear with the photos yet, But I thought they would look so much the same. But my friend, I didn't see my friend for the last 10 years. I guess he had changed a little bit, and I tried to do a good picture, but maybe it will be one of the. It won't be one of the best, but it's each time you do a picture, it's very, very hard, because you see the likeness, but you see the differences, and it's very tough. And
Yeah, I love this one too.
Yeah, these two little girls from Bath in England, and they came with their school costume, their school how do you say it? The costume, anyways.
But they knew each other?
Yeah, because in their school where they went to study, they were confused by the teachers all the time, and they would always say, I forgot their name, but they would call one for the other all the time. And then the mother of one of them saw my project on the web, and then she wrote to me. And then my daughter looks like a friend at school, and then it took about 2 years to get to be in Bath to take their pictures. Two women, that's in Amsterdam, and that's in Portugal, and that's in France. Two French women, and that's in New York City. Well, in fact, it's Weehawken, just in front of New York City. That's in Montreal. Two Chinese girls from Montreal. So that's in Los Angeles. Very interesting. It's okay. That's a good. That shot was taken in Los Angeles, and the guy on the left or the right, the guy on the left comes from Spain, and the guy on the right comes from the northern New York. Fascinating. So they work in the same lab in Atlanta, and people confuse them all the time. So some people wrote to me, wrote to me and say, well, I have a lookalike, and and so I was invited by a CBC or ABC or some letters like that in the States, and they brought them from Atlanta. They brought them to LA. And then I could photograph them, but I don't have the means to do that. I don't have the means to say take the plane, stay to the hotel. I mean, I wish, but it's not the case. That's in LA too. That's two Chinese women. Same thing, and that's New York City. Two guys. Very interesting. It's that was for a TV program in Germany. So it's
so interesting to hear where they're from too. Just
Yeah.
It's a portrait of a place as much as two people.
What a great job to edit this for the book, right? You just have hundreds of these Polaroids sitting on a table, right, and figuring it all out. How much fun that was.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I'm just going crazy and not sleeping at night because I'm doing these maquettes. That's too bad. It's not. They're all downstairs, but we have all these mock-ups, and we changed our mind. I have a friend who is a graphic designer, very good, and we are just doing. And I wanted to be published in Germany by Taschen, and I approached Taschen for many years, and I got many no's and many letters from them saying no. And then I had another publisher in Italy that was very interested at the beginning, but finally didn't work out. So I decided to do it myself. And but I can understand why they didn't jump on the project, because it's very abstract to have all these pictures, and what do you do with them? It's nice to have you look at the newspaper, or I just received that today from I had some pictures in Wired magazine, but it's the edition in the Asia. And it's so I had to ask for 3 months to get the copies of the magazine, and I'll show you. So that's the I just got that today. That's in Wired East something. So it's nice to see about 8 or 10 pictures in a magazine, and they even put a picture of me that. I don't know what they did. The picture was very bad, and it's printed very well. So they did some enhancement. So they took the Chinese woman from LA, and so it's nice to see a couple then and write some text. But if you put 200 pictures in a book, I mean, it could be bad. So we're finding a way to make it interesting, to make a story out of it. And I'm looking at books. Sorry.
No, what you could do is Maria Adamovich. I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong. The artist who sat at the MoMA for days
Yeah.
on end. And they have a whole book of just single portraits of all the people that sat with her.
Really?
Yeah, there's, it's hundreds and hundreds. Um, I'm crucifying her name, but that's a book you should look in just for reference to see what they did and how that might work for you. Someone could put her name there.
Yeah. I just wrote it down. Thanks for the tip. Yeah, it's because it could be boring and it could be interesting. It has to be interesting. There's no use to do something boring. I mean, I mean, if I on top of that, if I pay for that, I mean, I will get it. I'll be ruined and have a boring thing in my hand. But I may, once I make the
There you
mock-up, I will try to find a publisher another time, and and just and we'll see maybe a sponsor, and
Yeah.
I'm confident that I will do something good, but it will take some time. Don't wait for it like too soon.
Well, when the book comes out, you'll have to come back and show us. But
Yeah, sure. That will be a pleasure. That will,
Yeah,
that will be a pleasure.
the artist I was talking about is Marina Abdamovich. That's in the chat room now. That's the
Yes,
correct
okay.
spelling.
Abramovich. Yeah, okay. That's a good. That's a Russian name, Abramovich.
Yeah, Jimmy, what do you got? You got to unmute. You're muted, Jim.
You mean Joel?
No. Yeah, Jim. You're muted, Jim.
I've been raising my hand.
Okay.
Jim. Jay, unmute Jim.
He's unmuted, Frank.
Okay, yeah, it said I couldn't do it, you had to do it. Anyway, I think this is an amazing series. It would make such a beautiful traveling show. I think you would be so successful with a show anywhere in the world. And all the places you've been to, it's incredible. It's really great.
And an idea off of that, of what Jim just said, is that you do some in this traveling show live.
Yeah.
As you come to another city,
It's a great project.
all of that, it becomes, other couples, like I have to say, I'm sure of the number of people who are watching us live now tonight, every one of us has somebody that we feel that we look like. Like I know,
That's
but I know it's not available. I know I look like Will Smith, but I know
I look like Will Smith too.
Yeah.
So does Teresa. Teresa, you look like Will Smith too.
I can jump really high.
It's
Great idea.
It's really great, Francois. Very nice.
Well, thanks. I appreciate your comments, and I need some encouragement, because sometimes I think I'm just a crazy guy doing this crazy stuff, and nobody is interested, because it's basically it's very plain imagery. It's not, I have all my idols that I won't name because I'm too jealous of them, but it seems that every photographer in the world is 100 times better than me, and all these books that I look at, it's so incredible.
Let me give you some philosophical support.
Yes, please.
All right, you got a time limit on that, Joel.
Yeah, well, all right, fine. Yeah, first of all, I didn't expect much, and I was really, really impressed as it went on. And I realized what's happening is that by finding people's doubles, you're establishing the fact that we're not unique individuals. And in fact, as opposed to the notion of there's an ideal type, and we look to movie stars to be the ideal type, you're saying everyone's an ideal type. As soon as you produce a duplicate of somebody, you're suggesting that they're a type. And it reminded me, a faint echo of Pascal, right? He said, Dieu, God, c'est un sphère dont le centre est partout et la circonférence nulle part, right? You're doing something like that.
You're good. Bravo.
Seriously, the center. You found the center of the human type everywhere by demonstrating that that we're doubled. So I think this is a very significant project, and don't put yourself down.
Yeah.
No, I'm not putting myself down. I'm putting the others up.
Okay, whatever. I put that in the comment. so you have.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
That's good. Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. And thanks for the yeah for the. It's good. Yeah, it's true that my photos bring people together, and in this time of war and chaos, it's nice to see two people that even strangers that look like confident and they trust each other and they enough to touch. And for me, it's a therapy to see this. When I look at my pictures, I feel good just because of that. So.
Well, it's also a praise of diversity. When we're in a political situation where the far right and the evangelical far right says we're the true Americans, we're the type, and everybody else is a variation. You're saying no, everybody is a type. Everybody is a model for all of humanity. That's what that's the invitation. That's a very powerful statement.
Linda has a comment.
I just want to also say that I've never seen chins look so beautiful. Like sometimes when I think, wait, do they really look alike? And there's something in the chin. It's like they do, but you even where it's sketchy a little, there's something. The nose, the chin, the eye slant. I love having faces be so compartmentalized in a beautiful way.
That one's amazing.
Pictures,
Yeah.
chins especially. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, the things you think you're going to look like, who cares about the hairstyle? It's about the structure of the face that you have really explored in a beautiful way.
Yeah. Well, thanks. For me, I think everyone is beautiful. When I was younger, I decided to do a picture to advertise my talent, and I asked some people to find me a man, an ugly man, So I had some references, and I must say that there was someone that was ugly, but the person looked mean. And if you look mean, then you're ugly. If you're mean, you're ugly. And I won't mention any past president of your country. But finally, we found a man, and he was somebody who had no job, and he was a former alcoholic, and his face was kind of I don't know if the word is correct, but ravaged. He was full of marks and things like that. So he came to my studio, and I did it with an 8x10, and I did a few shots of him, and he was the best model I ever had, because I see him just stand there and look at the lens, and he would do that and not ask any question, not do anything, and then he left. And I wanted to photograph the ugliness, but finally he was the most beautiful man I ever photographed.
There you go.
He was full of his story, his marks, because he had a rough life. But so I say this man was really beautiful. So I missed my point to photograph ugliness, because he was the most authentic person I ever met in front of my camera, not talking, because we didn't talk much, but he was being himself in the front of the lens without any effort. He was not pretending.
Nice.
And in my picture, you must realize I talk a lot, and it's not a quality. In fact, but when I do my pictures of the people, at the beginning, the couples, they try to behave, like we do a good job, but I talk so much. At some point, they go like, okay, what does he want? They let their guard down, and then that's when I can get the pictures. And I see that sometimes. I see that.
Oh, it's a tactic. Okay.
Break down, they say, okay, whatever he wants to do, and they stop pretending. They stop pretending I must look smart, I must look cute. So they just listen to my instruction. Turn your head on this side or the other side, and then I get what they are really. But these two men that you see right now, I couldn't get anything, so I told them, these are two Spanish men. I told them, pretend you're the best wine specialist in Spain, and look at me like you look at me like I'm nothing. And then they went to faces.
Very good. Very, very good. Francois, I can't tell you how inspiring this presentation has been. You and Theresa really knocked it out of the ballpark tonight. So we thank you. So when do you think, I mean, as you sit here, is a book a year away? 2 years away?
Probably, but ideally in the fall. Yeah, ideally in the fall, but you know, ideally in the fall. Yeah, I would go to the printing in the fall, but I hope so. And then I want to do an exhibit also. So once I have the book, it will be easier to convince a museum to, because my thing is a museum thing, because I have nothing to sell really. So I have to find the first museum. Once I get the first, well, I had exposed a museum in Bogota and in Quebec City, but it was a different project. It was photos of lookalike of sculptures and ancient sculptures. It was a big success and things like that, but it was not my main project. But my idea is to have a big exhibit with lots of artifacts and emails and letters, and I could talk to you about that for hours. And then the exhibit would travel, you know, in some places, in some cities, and that would be it. So it's a life project. Like I don't have many projects. I have other projects, but this is the project. And this is my life is dedicated to that. And I didn't expect that when I started that 23 years ago. Just thought it would be one thing and then I would do some other thing. But no, that's it's eating my life, and I'm good with that. I have 500 new friends. And with you today, 501, 502, 503, 504.
So if any of us have people that we think we look alike, we can contact you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If you know a friend that has a look at, yeah, absolutely. By all means, please do.
Okay, all right. So, all right, you're going to be inundated. So I want to thank everyone. So you could stop sharing, Francois. That's
okay. Just hold on.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, you do look like Will Smith. So yeah, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Teresa, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing that. And you know, both of you keep us abreast of your progress, and we'll have you back. And I thank everyone for showing up. My dear friend Sandy has fallen asleep. That she had a busy day. But really, thanks to everyone for coming. Francois, Teresa, great job. And we'll see you soon.